Hey, so greetings everybody. I'm here today again with Gentle Rain, Robert Yule, Sangoma from South Africa. He's living here in McGregor in the Little Karoo, a beautiful village, for the crowning series. Welcome, Mkulu.
Margaret,
So much.
welcome.
I'm
Thank you.
looking forward to our conversation today. We've had a little pre-chat, and you said to me that you are just coming out of Omicron. So I'm interested in your observations and yeah, what are you getting? What are you getting from this experience? Yeah.
So it was a very interesting experience. It's like a mini dark night of the soul. And I think, with a lot of um, the things that we're seeing now, if you look at these things psychically, um, I've noticed that a lot of people carry baggage, but particularly when they come down and get sick with these things. And so a lot of the um, awareness seems to be pushed into the back area. So it's all our past stuff, it's all the stuff that we've kind of turned our backs on. All of those little things, the niggly stuff. Am I good enough? Am I doing the right thing? Am I, you know,
Is it
enough
worth
of a healer? Is it
it?
worth it? Is it a big
What's the
thing for
point?
me?
Yeah.
What's the point? Yes. And so um, yeah, I got nailed between the eyes with what's the point? Why am I doing this? What do I need to do this for? There's no point. And just feeling the absolute smallness of myself in this vast, mass, dense, huge universe. And, I'm little old me, and, there's bigger things than me, and and all of those things. And I allowed all of that stuff to overwhelm me, I guess, because yes, it's a beautiful, huge universe, and we're a tiny little cog in that story. But we're a cog that's really, really important. Um, you know, because without our particular story, there's a different tune that comes out. And so our tuning is important to the resonance of the universal song.
Yeah, boom. We agree.
So I had to keep reminding myself that I am where I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing what I need to do. And I just need to put one foot in front of the other and do my best and just bring peace to myself and everybody else around me. Um, you know, that didn't always work. I found that there were a lot of extreme emotions that came up with this whole thing, because the fear was being pushed. The fear response led to the anger and, the itchiness. And also it's 40 degrees out here at the moment. So that didn't help. When you kind of a bit dermacar with a bit of a fever and like things are not working, and it's hot and you haven't been able to sleep properly, you get a bit cranky. So all of those things, it was like a perfect storm for all of my defects of character to come out. But the beautiful thing was that I saw it all. I had the presence of mind to just sit every day, in meditation or in ceremony or whatever it was, and just reflect at that and look at it and go, okay, so I didn't do so well on the anger score. I didn't do so well on this. I didn't do well, next time, maybe maybe it'll be different. So I kept trying to do the next right thing. It doesn't always work
Yeah.
because of things, but I really got it. I really got what people were saying to me when they came to me for a session or whatever. You know, there was all this anger and the broken nadis and the energy lines that were just out of kilter, and um, you know, people sitting up here rather than sitting here,
Of course.
or I've seen people actually dragging themselves by their feet. So they were so beaten out of themselves. They were dragging their awareness behind them like a cart, you know. So I got what that felt like, you know.
So I've got like a couple of things I want to reflect on from what you're saying, which is
Yeah.
speaking to, because my partner just also had Omnicron. And so, and it's interesting because we've noticed in our friends community, mostly it's only been the men who've been getting Omnicron. The like I slept next to him and was intimate and whatever, you know, throughout and didn't get it. You know, but he got it. The other guy got it. You know, like so it's interesting. It seems to be, and then some of the women who we know who got Omicron are women who are more connected with their kind of masculine than their feminine, which was interesting. But anyway, that's an aside. The something that came up for me when you were talking again about, you know, that baggage from the past, right? Because I also know through my work with the biofields that um, we receive through the back of our chakras, and
Right.
the front is the giving place. So all of that baggage, which is the past, right, is the past. It is behind us. It is the past. What it's
Mm.
doing is it's creating like a filter through which we are receiving. So what I keep getting and what the mountains have been telling me, and you know, like, is it's time to unplug from time. It's time to unplug from the past, to totally pull up our roots from the past and unplug from time and like stop the clock, you know, stop the drive of the clock that has been going round and round and round and round and round for thousands of years. So, like, just
Yeah.
literally, like that backpack, take it off because it's filtering what we're receiving. It's filtering everything. What's our past filters everything that we receive, like very physically in our metaphysical, in our biofield. It filters into our
Mhm.
system what we receive. So that's a big thing, unplugging, hey? Yeah, and then he also had all of that, the depression, which he doesn't have depression generally. And this like, what's the point of anything? And so this opportunity to really like, okay, so what is the point? You know, what is the value of humanity? Like, what is it? And go deeper into that. It's quite a profound Omnicron. I didn't actually know that it's spelled OMM. I thought it was OMNI, and it stood for omnipotent, what's, how do you say it? Omniscient.
Um, Omniscient, yes.
Omniscient corona. that's what that's what that's what I've been calling it. It's like, yeah, and it does. It opens up the whole crown, doesn't it? And to get it through, then you have to take it through your heart, and that's where the baggage of the past and through the throat really can mess with what you're receiving. Hey.
Well, I mean, if we start talking about receiving stuff and things coming from your crown down, you know, when things are being manifested through,
Mm.
it kind of makes sense that your baggage is getting pushed out your back, or you are receiving all of this baggage because it's like a filtering process, right? So you kind of you're talking ascension stuff here.
Yeah, that's what we're talking. Yeah.
You
And
know,
it's not
so
it's not actually spiritual bypassing, because
yeah,
you have to do the work of clearing the baggage. In from biofield studies, what I've learned is that the way that the chakras, I'm sure you know this as well, the crown and the base receive on the horizontal, I mean on the vertical axis. They
yes,
receive on the vertical axis, but all the others receive on the horizontal axis,
yeah,
and they receive in the back and they give out the front. But at the moment, what's happening, because we are crowning, it's just the whole planet is crowning now, is that there's a huge amount of more light um, information, light frequency information coming in through the crown than there was previously, which is why I find it helpful to root the crown into the higher heart at the back, so that it's
yeah,
open from a more grounded place, and the crown washes our throats to assist us with what we project with our voices, which are of course so powerful. But like, yeah, on the horizontal axis, which also I think speaks more to time, to kind of the clock time, the turning of the planet, daily life, the clock time, um, receiving from the back, and then that's where the past is, and that's where all the baggage is. So yeah, it makes so much sense that Omnicron is bringing this like anger and this frustration and this like, wow, what is this world? Like there's no point. I'm just wasting my time. Humanity's buggered. Like um, the whole system is just, there's no turning back, no coming home from this. But it makes sense to
yeah.
me. Yeah.
It's really interesting, this whole shift that humanity's going through at the moment, and we've got this um, big thing that's happening, which is forcing us to deal with our own mortality, to deal with our place in the universe. Um, even if you're not spiritually connected, or you don't believe in that stuff, and you come from a pure scientific background, you still have to look at your stuff. It's like this thing has taken the bases away and said, right, we're all equal. It's gone back to we're that. We're all equal. We're in the same pond together. We're all sitting in the same soup. And this soup is saying, hey, check your stuff out. What's going on? Why are you guys angry? What's going on with your greed? What's going on with your baser instincts? How's your heart? How's your connection to people? In what way do you love things
What
and
work are you
people?
doing? Yeah.
So this is all kind of like all the really important aspects of all of these planes. So as the manifestation comes down and we start dealing with our voice in the world, and then we start dealing with our connection to our fellow beings in the heart space, our forest, and then we start looking at our own stuff, and who we are and what we're doing, and then our base instincts with survival. Am I going to survive this thing? Am I going to, is this it? And if this is it, then what's next? Is there next? So it's just like all of this amazing stuff that's happening to humanity. Um, and so I get it that there's a lot of fear now, because a lot of that stuff is really scary, and a lot of people are not. Oh, hello. A lot of people are not ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with this kind of stuff because it's big and scary. And sometimes it's overwhelming and too much. So it's easier to be angry, and it's easy to shield, and it's easier to get depressed and, and stay depressed. So succumb to all of those things that we are being taught through these light frequencies that are coming through. So believe what the voices in our psyche are telling us, those negative bits that are saying, hey, you're useless and you're not good, and because it's kind of easier in a way to believe those things, because it's an outside force. It's something that's telling you. It's not coming from the inside, where you're having to forge your own way, which is a little bit more difficult. It's being imposed on you. Yeah, my kids agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of where it comes from the outside, and we can say, well, maybe it's from the outside and the inside, is,
Yeah.
in our ancestral experiences, and the experiences of our ancestors of life and what it means to, for example, be good enough, to be acceptable member of society, to be an upstanding woman or man, like what it means, what you're supposed to do, or how you're supposed to behave, or um, we have got baggage from there too. We inherit baggage from there too, and it's also not necessary to continue carrying it, and it does take work to transmute the DNA. Um, I'm interested in how you, in this last few weeks that you've been together with Omni Cron, um, how have you done transmutation? What have you done to turn that poison into nectar? The stuff that's coming from the outside, because always the stuff that comes from the outside also meets with what's inside us from our
Yes.
childhoods, from our what we've inherited, from also the other experiences of our soul, which we often remember and don't realize. You know, what did you work with? Have you got some techniques or technologies to do that transmutation process?
Well, I tried a lot of stuff, and the so I did a little bit of alchemies with medicine. So I mixed some medicines up. I did pipe ceremonies. I did all sorts of things to try and just connect with what's going on, and just to find a sense of peace, I guess, within myself and with everybody else. And I realized that I needed to let all of that stuff go. Um, so that was inherently almost like a selfish response. And I needed to just let go and just see that there are things bigger than me, and that's okay. So I found that what worked the best was just bringing healing compassion to other people and to people around me, and just feeling what I was feeling, and then just looking around and experiencing what other people feel as well, and bringing peace and blessings to those people who were feeling what I was feeling. So it's the Buddhist Tonglen meditation. So you experience something, and then you look outside of yourself and you see who's experiencing that same thing, and you bring blessings to them as well as bringing blessings to yourself. And that seemed to work really, really well, because it kind of got me out of myself, and it got me to realize that other people are experiencing the same thing as well. And it's not a huge, dire, terrible thing. That it's actually a really important, beautiful blessing that we all need to receive.
Now, I guess part of it is, part of it seems to be, part of it seems
They
to
just
be,
go crazy.
yeah, they're going wild in the background there. Part of it seems to be speaking to the attainment of compassion, hey? Like
Yeah.
practicing of the mastery of compassion, living it,
Yes.
because the
Yeah.
alternative is just really shit.
Yeah.
Right. And the other part seems to be quite connected with the piece around accepting death, um, accepting the death of everything, accepting,
Yeah.
like, letting go of holding on,
Yeah.
letting go of holding on, which is, both of those things are quite interesting. Somebody
Yeah.
said to me a few days ago, and I said, huh? But they said to me, the measure of how free a person is. I'm interested in also your comeback at this too. The measure of how free a person is how able they are to die and not leave any major responsibilities undone.
Wow.
That's the measure of
That-
how free a person is.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Interesting.
And how much responsibility do we leave, actually? You know? Yeah. I guess the question is, you know, have you got your life in such a way that there's peace when everything happens, There's a sense of calmness, there's a sense of just being there, just allowing the process. Can I go and see what these guys are up to? Because
Yeah.
okay. So sorry, 1 second.
Right. Is everything all right outside?
Perfect. So we were talking about fear, their fear response is when they are left alone, when I'm up here and their mum's out, is to get freaked out by something. And then they go and they go and they go. And that's kind of what we do, we do the same thing. We're always on the edge, looking for something to go wrong. And I think, that was one of the processes that I also noticed, was that there was this anticipation for things to go wrong. Like, is it going to get worse? Am I going to die? And I met up with someone who, who said that this thing was amazing for her because she sorted out her fear of death, fear of dying, because she got quite sick, and she lay there thinking, is this it? And if this is it, am I ready? Have I prepared? Have I got enough? Have I done everything that I need to do? Is there any unfinished business that I need to take care of? So she worked through all of this stuff, and she worked through a lot of her regrets, and she went through this whole process for days, thinking, oh my God, this is it. Oh my God, this is it. And at the end of it, came out and she said, to us, like, oh my God, if I could do that again, it would be amazing because I sorted so much stuff out. And she was like 150 times lighter than she had ever been before. You could visibly see her glowing because there wasn't that fear anymore. There wasn't this niggling, oh my God, you know? And yeah, so I think for me too, um, like not on an amazing scale like that, but I did have to face my mortality. Um, think I started thinking, okay, well, I'm coming down with symptoms. Is this it? Um, and have I got my stuff in order? You know, is my feather going to be heavy or light? The guilt is the conscience that needs to be appeased here. So it was a very interesting process, and I think um, if we could do that more often, if we could look at our lives daily, as the sun goes down, with that mini death, when we die every day, think, is this it? If it is, you know, have, am I ready? What is the feather going to weigh? Is it going to be heavier or lighter than my soul? Yeah. So, what is it that I need to work through? Is there any guilt, and how can I deal with that? You
Wow,
know?
that's amazing. That also feels like the first thing that you said about the most useful kind of technique that you used to help yourself navigate was helping others. So, really opening up your heart of compassion and giving.
Yeah.
And then now, what you've just said says to me, okay, it sounds like also a very useful thing to do would be to, even though we kind of know that Omnicron isn't a killer, we know that. It's interesting to me how much fear is going around, even though it's not. But to use the opportunity to, rather than looking outward at the world only, to do what that woman did, and look in at our own worlds and see, okay, as you say, like, how's the feather weighing, like, to use the opportunity, because from what I witnessed when it was in the house with me, is that the weight of the black cloud, like the anger, the despair, the hopelessness, it's massive. It's a huge opportunity to really investigate and contemplate one's own, as you said, one's own mortality, which I wouldn't naturally think of because I know it's not a killer. So I'm like, okay, if I get, or I mean, now I will probably, if I get Omnicron, then I'll go through it differently after this conversation. But previously, I don't think I would have thought that I'm going to die. So I might just focus all of my awareness outwards at the greater picture and the politics of the world, and all that stuff, which is essentially other people's stuff. Like, I can do my bit, but I can't necessarily change. I don't know. I can't necessarily change everything. You know, Miracles happen, but yeah. Yeah, so that's really useful. That's a really useful piece, that as well. Hey, like, to consciously go into that. It's like I've heard about people going to India, for example, to do like death retreats where
Yeah.
they meditate on their death and make their bucket lists and really contemplate all of their relationships and what is it, who am I in all of this actually, and who am I being? How am I living? Yeah. Hmm. That's great. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
The biggest thing that we in the West don't talk about is death and the death process. I think that is the biggest fear for everybody. Am I going to suffer? And is there anything afterwards? And oh yes, and also all of the regrets. I didn't get to do this. I didn't get to do that. I didn't get to do this. I didn't get to do that. And yeah, so all of that stuff comes flying at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you've just got to navigate that.
Mm.
It doesn't matter who you are. Eventually you're going to have to navigate that. And so we in the West are not really taught how to deal with that.
Mm.
There's an amazing initiative going on at the moment. It was started years ago, actually, where people talk about death. They're called death cafes. Mm. So you can find them on the internet. I mean, they're everywhere. So people are now taking other lineages and wisdoms from other places and applying it to their lives and using those tools to try and help them navigate this scary stuff, and it just starts from talking about it, talking about death. There's always been a stigma around it. And it's one of the most natural, beautiful processes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not beautiful. Sometimes it's really ugly. But it's still a natural process. However it happens, there's a very biological thing that happens, and then there's a very spiritual thing that happens as a result. And there's a lot of fear around it. And there's a lot of shrouding and a lot of talking about the big D and the big C and, oh my God, we don't talk about that. And, when actually we should be normalizing that kind of stuff,
Yes.
really.
Yeah. What's the big C?
Oh, cancer.
Oh, cancer. Yes.
And that was code for, okay, we don't want to talk about that. That's something that we don't talk about. Giving it a capital letter, we don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Trying to kind of tame it, normalize it, but sanitize it and keep it away.
Yeah.
Just the kids might hear kind of thing, when actually, we need to talk about these kinds of things. We need to open up and share, like, what are your insecurities about dying? What is it that you would regret? What would you miss? What are your fears about the afterlife? Do you think that there is an afterlife or not? And if there is, what is your idea of it? Because those things are important. It helps with your sense of self and your sense of your place in the world. And if we talk about the thing that's the biggest fear, then the other smaller fears then have a voice too. It's like an end cap of a tube where there's a blockage and then there's a backup of other things that need to be spoken about, but we don't want to speak about those things because there's an end cap. We don't talk about those things in polite society or whatever. take the end cap off, empty it out, have a look, throw it all over the table, piece through it, go through it, look at it, say, wow, that's interesting. I didn't know it was shaped like that. You know?
I really love the idea of death cafes. I think that there's a few other things that it would be good for there to be cafes of to talk about them as well.
Yeah. Well, you know, the it, there've been cafes throughout history. Um, French politics was all run in cafe,
Yeah.
where philosophers debated the divinity of the king. You know, so there's always been these underground cafes where they talk politics and they talk um, philosophy of the politics actually. So it's always been taken over by a political thought.
Mm.
There hasn't really been um, spiritual cafes, you know, where we talk about like these crises that we are dealing with.
Mm.
You know, these questions that we're speaking through now. Um, these conversations are really important for society. You know, it helps
Mm.
us grow, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Boom. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now I've got another question. Um, it might seem a little edge, but I'm curious to know what you may, or if you have, I'm curious to know what you have received from your team, ne? From your team, from your inquiry, not just inside the Corona experience yourself, but inside the greater Corona experience that's been going on now for a couple of years, right? What have you received as far as the what and the why of this experience that we're having as a global being? And I can say as a global being, including all that is here, all of us here.
Yeah.
And then fine tuning slightly into the human involvement in it, meaning speaking to the, you know, there are indicators that potentially the virus was partially human inspired or created. Be it yes or no is beside the point, but there's that, okay? And then there's, of course, the vaccine, which is humanity playing a role in something that, for me, is all part of the natural process that we're going through. But I'm interested in if you've got any kind of specific what, why that's come through to you over this last 2 years, you know, and maybe it's refined and refined again, and
Mm.
maybe not. Maybe your team hasn't so much spoken to you about that stuff. But I'm curious, and I keep asking my body, and if I must ask you this, and my body says yes, so no. There it is.
So um, so initially I was very curious and I kept asking, you know, what is this? What is going on? Why are we experiencing this? Um, you know, what is the spiritual significance of this whole pandemic? Is it necessary? Why do we need to suffer like this? And you know, they listened to me for a bit, my team, and they were obliging, and they were like, "Yeah, okay, you know, the reason why is because um, partly because it's a biological response, to what's happening around us. It's also a part of the evolution of the species, spiritually speaking.
Fine tune a biological response a little bit more, like to what's happening around us. For example.
So yeah, so there's cause and effect. So people are getting sick, and then they're passing it on and passing it on and passing it on and passing it on, and it's something that naturally happens on this planet. You know, there have been epidemics since the word go. You know, and I guess in a funny way, it's been kind of like Mother Nature putting a balance check in. So there's always a balance. When a population gets out of control, there's usually something that comes in to counter it, biologically speaking. You know, so there's theories about that, the fact that it's probably a biological response in that way. So my team was saying, yeah. I mean, there's that, but don't worry about it. It's fine. Just don't worry about that stuff. So then I started asking, okay, so sure. So what is our role in this whole thing? I mean, why is this happening now? And they kept saying, well, why not? It's a perfect opportunity. It's a perfect opportunity for us to grow. And then they started saying, well, actually, you know what? Because there has been ascension gates opening, and there's more frequencies coming down to Mother Earth, and we are now experiencing a shift in human consciousness. There's a very interesting evolutionary role that this is having spiritually with us, in that it's shifting consciousness. And if you look at the consciousness of humanity over the last 2 years, right, we've had to deal with isolation. We've had to deal with communication, different ways of communicating, different ways of experiencing our community. What is our community? What's our heart space? Our forest shrank radically. When we were in isolation, right? We had to deal with what was happening right here. So there was a lot of introspection. There was a lot of going inward and looking at who we are and what we're doing. And a lot of people innovated. A lot of people learned how to bake sourdough, So that for me is a huge thing, right? So there was an adapting. There was an idea that we need to evolve somehow. So a lot of people upskilled. They did courses. So a lot of people also became depressed and withdrew and became recluses. So there was a shrinking too, but that also had a very interesting role for them, in that they had to focus on themselves, focus on everything that had happened to them. A lot of them became hyper aware of themselves. They became aware of their biology. So the biological response, what's happening, my heart rate, headaches, cold, flu, oh my God, this is happening, we need to wash our hands. A lot of people had to, then went to study the biology of all of this. But the biggest thing that's happened, I think, is the evolution of the fear process. So what was going to be a process where people transcended the fear became a place where people were trapped and panicked in it. Kind of like getting stuck underwater in a plastic bag and can't get out, you know? So one of two things have got to happen then. Either you break free, you do everything that you can to break free however you can, or you succumb to that and you drown. And so a lot of people ended up creating all of these weird and wonderful theories and started the whole craze of like all the conspiracy theories that started coming out. You know, it was the height of American politics and global politics that then became infused with the fear base around all of this stuff, around the vaccines, you know, all of that weird shit around the spike protein. You know, there was a lot of weird stuff about, you know, how to deal with this thing, all of these pseudo cures and people researching themselves to a standstill, and then being completely flooded with this overabundant amount of information. Too much, you know? So kind of where they're torn out of the bag and started crawling out of it, it kind of became disorientated and put themselves back in the bag somehow. And then panicked in that bag again, because it's like, you know, there's too much stuff. You know, who knows what to believe anymore? Do you know? So there's been this shift in the confusion of the species. There's been a shift in the way we relate to ourselves, and there's been an increase in suspicion and blaming and persecuting and all of this stuff that we've been dealing with on an emotional level personally has now become dominant in the public space. So we've all started dealing with other people's stuff. You know, so the political view is other people's stuff, like you said earlier. You know, so we've had to really navigate quite carefully. So my team have just been saying to me, just be careful. Just be careful about what you hear, what you see, you know.
What you
Not
expose
everything.
yourself to, in a sense.
Yeah, not everything.
Same like those guidelines that we've been given about social distancing. It's like, take care, social distance yourself, take care about what you expose yourself to through the media.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because, you know, everybody has an opinion. And, you know, it's difficult to navigate through this stuff, you know.
Yeah. And maintain your own integrity.
And maintain your own exactly, you know.
Yeah.
It's a very tricky, fine line. So my team have just been saying to me, look, focus on what's going on for you. Focus on just being the peace and holding space for the sacredness of all life. And don't worry and get caught up in all the science and the pseudoscience and all of that and the conspiracy around it. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Irrelevant who created what and did what with who and where and why,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
The fact is, it's happening right now. The fact is that we have to navigate through it, however that is, you know. So the only way that we're going to be able to do that is with a sense of peace and calm. Because when you're peaceful and calm and collected, you're able to discern actually what feels true for you. You know, what does your heart say about stuff?
Yeah.
Go with what your heart says, not necessarily what your head or your gut say either, you know,
Yeah.
because those things can lie to you too.
Yeah, you know, I mean, two things. The one thing is I keep being reminded, you know, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, rule number one, don't panic. Keep being reminded.
Exactly.
In fact, the book is lying on our dining room table, you know. And the other thing that's interesting that my team said to me a little while ago, or showed me, I was given this experience. And in the experience, I experienced becoming totally polarized with my partner, 100% polarized, absolute, you know. And what I experienced through that was the possibility of, and for the first time, real 100% union, you know. So like, and I think maybe that's also what's going on now is we are polarizing fully. You know, this is a
Yeah,
place where they say that this is a planet of duality. This is the primary study here in physicality is duality, and and in order to fully unify without having like where you're not two wholes, because for pure polarization there has to be wholeness, you know.
right,
So
exactly.
then and then in society it appears to me that there's a radical polarization happening, you know. So it's like I guess we've got the opportunity to choose how to be whole, you know, to realize that we are becoming whole as
Yeah,
individuals. And I mean I think we've always been on a mission to do that, like, you know. But now this to realize also that we are in a polarized reality, and that unity only happens from pure polarization. When you've got pure polarization and those two parts, it's like the opposite ends, like a positive end of a magnet and a negative end of a magnet, they come together, they unify,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
So so it's an interesting thing. Yeah, it's an interesting thing
Yeah.
that's happening now.
So another thing that I'm being reminded of now, like busy whispering in my ear, is that you know, while you were talking, there was the polarizing that you were talking about, and there's this sense of the ominous they.
The ominous day.
Yeah, so they are,
Okay.
um, you know, they are the enemy. There's this invisible enemy out there that is, and I see it all the time on social media. I
Mm.
see a lot of posts that from spiritual groups, you know,
Yeah.
talking about this mysterious they. You know, they have created something to, um, I don't know, um, to divide us and keep us back from our true selves and all of this stuff. That is spiritual bypassing, you
Mm.
know.
Siyabonga.
So this ominous they is not really they, it's us. And it's the center of a lot of these conspiracy theories, you know, and a lot of this fear. And it's not the outside people that we need to worry about, you know. It's not this nefarious underbelly that is trying to kill us all and to wipe everything out so that the world starts again clean. And it's not one of those fantastical sci-fi movies that you see. You know, that's not it. This is a real spiritual battle of us battling to find peace through our own war, through our own division. So we are divided. We have those two halves that we need to reunite, to unify. So we need to move, and I guess our trajectory and our mission is to move beyond the duality of this world into a oneness, where we take that duality and we see the whole of it. So it's two sides of the same coin. So we don't see the two sides, we see the coin. You know, so we become the coin, not one or other of the sides.
Yeah, it's kind of like relaxing about death.
Yeah.
Because it's okay, so it means I am asked to accept all of myself so that I can be one being.
Yeah.
And
And
love
that's
all of
it.
myself and be compassionate with all of myself. And
Yeah, that is it. And from an evolution point of view, from a spiritual evolution point of view, that is our mission, you know. So a lot of what my team are helping me with is to see that we are creators in training, and that we need to move and we need to transcend beyond all of this duality, beyond all of this fear and all of those things. And we need to be able to get to a point where we learn and we learn and we learn and we learn and get to a point where we can merge with the creator on the other side of the veil and give back what we've experienced. So by going through the veil, we become one with chaos, and we become destroyed, and we become millions of parts of one whole. So the veil works, the veil of the universe, you know, it works one way. So if you go from us up through to what's on the other side, the unknowable, the void, the darkness, or whatever it is, you know, that's on the other side of that veil, the other part of the envelope, we go through the destruction process, because it's the opposite of the creative side, which is when the emanations come down to us. So at some point, once we've received all of the emanations, we have to give all of those emanations back, right? So we're going to have to go through the destructive process, and we're going to have to, at some point, be completely destroyed to merge with whatever it is on the other side, so that we become part of whatever that is, that thing. So, you know, then you've got this whole thing about whether the Buddhists are right and whether you can actually sidestep that and not go through that process, or whether the Toltecs were right and whether you can avoid the eagle, you know. So all of these things, I mean, that is ultimately our destiny, to face that. So when you look at that big picture, and you look at what we're dealing with now, is small fry compared to that. You know, so my team keeps saying to me, don't worry about it. That's why they say, don't worry about it. It's not important. Get your stuff together, get yourself in order, because this is what you are really wanting to experience, and this is what you are wanting to help people with. So, you know, get on it. Don't worry about this stuff. It's not important. Yeah.
Yeah, get good at what you're doing, at what you want to be good at.
Yeah.
Practice, and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Practice what you love. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you do that, your vibration goes up. And when your vibrations have reached a point, then you evolve into something else. And you evolve into something else, and then you evolve into something else. And after many lifetimes, you evolve into something else. So the whole aim of the game is to evolve into something else, something more beautiful. So evolve into something more beautiful, you know, become a butterfly. And then whatever the butterfly becomes after he becomes a butterfly, be that until you need to be something else. You know, so kind of makes it all very simple at the end of the day.
Hey.
Anyway.
Yeah, siyavuma. We're together. Bokaye.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, Mvula. Thank you so much. I think that we're done. Is there anything else that you want to put into this conversation now before we say cheers for now?
I think that's a good note to leave on. Just be the butterfly until you need to be something else. You know? And just be peace. Be the compassion. Be the compassionate peace. Because that's how we change the world, man.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
ourselves first, and then it's easier to be for everyone else. Compassionate.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That is the lesson, I think. That's it. You've got it. Exactly that. That's the lesson that we're all being taught here.
Yeah. Like fierce compassion, fierce gentleness. This is the kind of a different expression of warrior energy. To be a fiercely compassionate and fiercely gentle. Yeah.
Of course.
Gracias. Namaste. Yeah, it's so good.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Robert, Kulu Gentle Rain, for joining us again today in the Crowning Series Conversations. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you. Yeah.
Thank you. Likewise. You always bring up very interesting questions.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.